Hello. Oh goodness, this lighting is atrocious. I look like I'm in a prison cell. I'm not in a prison cell. I am in a co-working space. Actually, look at this. Totally looks like I'm in a prison cell. Okay. So last week, I'm just going to try to balance that right there. Okay, so last week I published a blog called The Anatomy of Change, and today I wanted to create a video to kind of break that down for you, and then I realized we have to go way back to the beginning before we're going to talk about the anatomy of change, because if you've read the blog, which I know you all have read the blog, you know that the first step is a willingness to change, right? And then the second step is a willingness to observe, honestly. So what the hell are we observing, right? We have to start from there. So, as I said in the blog that I know you've all read, when I started coaching, I started really heavy with nutrition, and I really thought that was going to be the focus of my life. I quickly learned that despite nutrition, if the person didn't have any self-esteem, or just really they weren't in touch with their self-worth, they weren't going to make any changes. So then I shifted to starting with self-esteem coaching. Then I realized, regardless of self-esteem, if they had no idea what the fuck they're changing, then we weren't going to get anywhere either. So then I shifted to building out this ecosystem and acknowledging the whole. And so many times we compartmentalize our lives. So I can be really, really healthy in how I eat and how I exercise, but my relationships can be really toxic. Or I could have a career that really, really fulfills me, but then I go home and I drink a bottle of wine every night alone, right? So the first step to connecting all of these things and really making a change that kind of supports everything in your life in a really productive way is to look at the full ecosystem. So that's what we're going to do today, is we are going to build out your ecosystem. And then next video, someday this week, we will talk about what the hell you do with the ecosystem, and then I can make a video explaining the anatomy of change. So I'm not quite at the point where I can read your comments and answer questions at the same time, but if you do leave a comment, I promise that I will answer them later. So this is you in your life, in your ecosystem. And at the center of this ecosystem is your health and happiness, because if you don't have both of those, then really what's the point? If you're so happy, but you're on your deathbed, what's the point? If you are really, really healthy, but you're freaking miserable, what's the point? So the core of this ecosystem is your health and happiness. That is your ultimate goal. Then we have legs that built out of this ecosystem. And like I tell everyone, is that your legs may look different than the legs that I have here, and that's okay. But on this specific ecosystem that I have built, we have relationships. And there are two kinds of relationships in your life. You have the relationship with yourself, and then you have a relationship with every other person you ever come in contact with in your life. Next, we have our physical health. We have self-esteem. We have mental and emotional health. We have spirituality, we have purpose, and we have passions. And again, I could probably add 200 more bubbles that contribute to my personal ecosystem, but for the purpose of today, this is what we're going to be chatting about. So the first step to even understanding how to up-level your life is to build this out. So I'll give you a second to look at this magnificent piece of art so you can replicate it. And then you need to take the time to sit with yourself and really think about what contributes to your ecosystem. So why is it important? Every single leg on this ecosystem is very intertwined with the rest of the legs. So remember from biology, the idea of ecosystem, a system of living, breathing, moving parts that contributes to the whole. So I'm going to give you an example. If let's talk about the first example I gave. If I am on my shit in my physical health, but I have no self-esteem, eventually I'm going to lose steam wanting to upkeep this, because I really don't have that foundation of worth keeping me going, right? If I don't have self-esteem, it's also going to affect my purpose. I'm not going to be brave enough to walk bravely directly to my goals, right? If I have no self-esteem, it's really going to affect my relationships. Every relationship is built off of the relationship that you have with yourself. Think about that one. So, another example, I'll give you an example from my own life. When I was in New York City, I had crippling anxiety for a really, really long time. I don't think I ever really overcame it until the last 2 years living there. And my best girlfriends one year, they came so we could all celebrate our October birthdays together. And because of my anxiety, I was just really, really weird. And they felt the disconnect. And it wasn't until this year that they told me, Tory, we thought you were on pills. Mind you, I've never done drugs in my life, so I was absolutely not on pills. But they said, Tory, we thought you were on pills, and we were really freaked out, and that's why we stopped talking to you. Huge, right? So my anxiety, one of my legs of my ecosystem, was really compromising my self-worth, my ability to hold relationships, my ability to communicate. It really was taking me out of my purpose, my authenticity, and it was caused this big disconnect in my life of these girlfriends that I grew up with my whole life that I love dearly. Unfortunately, it took years for that to come out and remedy itself, but just an example of how the tiniest thing can really create a disruption in your ecosystem. So I challenge you to build your ecosystem. So next time we do a video, you can pop out this ecosystem, and together we can talk about ways to dissect the bullshit out of the areas that need some lovin', and then how we can inject some life, love, and happiness into all of those areas to really up-level the whole damn thing. Love you. Have an amazing day, and I will talk to you soon.